And the evening is winding down here at Nissan Stadium, Steve, after Mississippi State ends its season with a 38-28 loss to Louisville in the Music City Bowl. State's up 14-0, seems to have momentum on its side, but things turned around fast, and when it turned completely, and that's pretty much the story of the game and in some sense this whole season.
Yeah, David, you're right. State goes up 14-0, a very physical 14-0, and had the ball with a chance to really put their foot on Louisville's throat. Instead, Louisville gets up off the mat, gets a stop. Next thing you know, they're in the end zone. There's a special teams fumble shortly after that.
Are you saying special teams made another mistake?
That's been the one constant this year, David. But, Louisville scores 31 straight points. And the bottom line is, we can say, and that's the thing that the popular narrative is the team wasn't ready to play. Well, they're up 14-0, and so the bottom line is I thought State got a good enough start. They wore down in the middle, and I really thought Louisville made them look really, really average today.
Now, to be fair, Louisville did have a fumble, and State forced the fumble in the first series when they were just gashing them relentlessly. Willie Gay gets a strip, and Tim Washington falls the fumble 1 yard line. And State comes back with a 99-yard touchdown drive after going 3 and out and losing your running back effectively on the first play of the game. You think, okay, the Bulldogs definitely ready to play tonight. Get 14-0 lead. They're running. They're making plays in the passing game. Tommy Stevens making plays with his feet, reading things. But Louisville, it was almost as if once they started thinking, we're back in this game, we can win it, and they started using their strengths. Didn't have a lot of them, but what they did, the speed especially, it really played against a dog defense that, as much as they tried to patch things together, could not hold up for a 3-down series. Louisville's efficiency on third down was outstanding, but their third and long conversions were incredible.
That's true, David, and that was really the story of the second half. The State defense simply could not get off the field. The offense couldn't get a first down going. The Bulldog defense couldn't get off the field. State was thoroughly whipped in that third quarter, and it really, in my mind, goes back to that second quarter. When you have the special teams fumble, Javante Payton fumbled there, like he had a seam, he fumbles. The defense actually holds there, and you give up no points. Granted, they had some miscues, but you get off the field there, and you think, okay, you've survived this. And then Louisville gets a little bit desperate. They couldn't line up and run their base offense again because State was shutting the run down, and they run the double pass. And, David, I was closer to defending the tight end than a Bulldog defender was. There was nobody around him. It was just a matter of hoping that he dropped the football. And I guess that's really the thing you look at now is it wasn't a physicality issue. It wasn't an effort issue. I just think Louisville was better prepared for the football game, and it showed simply in that second half. That third quarter was completely dominated by Louisville. And I don't know that you could argue that Mississippi State made an appreciable adjustment. Not that it was apparent to the amateur eye.
Well, there were only so many adjustments the defense could make given what personnel they had available. Once Errol Thompson, who aggravated a pre-existing injury on his own during the break around Christmas where we found that out post-game, with him out, all of a sudden you can't play the 3 linebacker sets you wanted to in those games. You're running some safeties out there who maybe aren't completely comfortable trying to cover a great slot receiver, and give Atwell credit. I mean, the guy was that good. And their quarterback, with their speed, was able to keep them frozen, but it was another situation where, much like, say, Texas A&M, State never quite got to the quarterback to bring him down before he got a ball off in so many of those third down situations. So the dog defense was playing shorthanded. They knew it, and they gave as good as they could, but they simply couldn't hold up over extended series. And other than that one big turnover Louisville had, they didn't make many self-inflicted mistakes.
Well, they had a couple of drops. That's the thing, too, I think about, too. State had every opportunity to really seize control of this ball game, and you couldn't capitalize on it. The defense gave you just enough stops early to allow you to get some separation, and State gets up 14 and really kind of went to sleep until the fourth quarter when the game was all but decided, David. And that's the thing, too, that Stephen Guidry, probably a career game for him, in his final game in the uniform, and a lot of Bulldog fans like, hey, where has that been? That's the frustrating thing about this season is you have had some pieces that you felt like you were just waiting for somebody to break out. And then once the game is decided, all of a sudden you put up these big numbers. And that's a real challenge for Joe Moorhead. This offense has got to learn to make plays when the game still matters, not when the game has already been decided.
We'll talk a bit about Moorhead and the future of the program, but finishing up some things about this game. Once Colin Hill was out, and then we found out that Nick Gibson was under a 1-quarter suspension, which is another troubling sign. There's a whole lot of these suspensions that we just find out on game day sometimes. State ran the ball, but they couldn't run between the tackles the way they expected against this Louisville team that just got gashed by Kentucky. Now, yes, Louisville got some players back. They were healthier. The footing was better. But still, State's type of running was not the running they've been good at this season. When that's taken away, and then, as you mentioned, there's some drop passes, particularly by the tight ends, the offense just – the third quarter, as you say, really told the tale. But even in the second quarter, you could see some signs of trouble developing on the offensive side.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that touchdown you give up there, I mean, it's like 14-0 with the football. A great team, even a really good team, finds a way to go get any points whatsoever, and State was really –
at least get a good drive going.
Absolutely. You're stymied there, and the next thing you know, you're battling for your life. You basically gift them 10 points right there towards the end of the second quarter. And then they hit the locker room juiced. And, David, I was in there cutting up pictures when they were coming out. They were ready to go to war when they came out there. And listen, you hear a lot of that in the rah-rah stuff, but not only did their rahs resonate in the locker room, when they came out here, they were ready to eat Mississippi State alive, and they did.
I thought the team was ready tonight, so we can't criticize that. And I thought they made plays in certain situations with the ability they had. The thing that troubled me, Steve, is Louisville made them look slow, both offensively and defensively. And we know, yes, they got some speed, but State plays a lot of fast teams. The second thing, I think some of that slowness was there seemed to be some confusion, as in what do we do now? And that's been a troubling thing much of this season in games that got away. But what hurt most is this is the only time this season State had a lead or a tie at halftime and lost a game. Something was just missing today, much like last year in the Outback Bowl as well. So I think we found out that Joe Moorhead now, after open dates and bowl games, with extended time to get ready for games, is 0-5. What's missing with the program right now?
David, that's a wonderful question. I tell you what, if I had that, I could probably cash that in. Yeah, well, I'd probably cash that in and sell it for all that I could. But, the reality of all this, David, is that, a lot of the problems that we had in week one, the problems we had tonight. Tommy Stevens struggled to pick up the cornerback blitz against Louisiana Lafayette, had a turnover. Same thing tonight. They bring a guy off the slot. It's the same pressure we've seen all year on the front side to try to generate a decision-making process early. And so that continued to happen. Mississippi State's wide receivers were inconsistent. She had some pass catchers drop the ball, even though I thought Osiris Mitchell had a couple big catches, and Guidry had probably the highlight of his career on that catch and run an 18-yard touchdown to kind of get State back in it. But that's the thing the biggest concern to me, and people say, well, there's a lot of things, is the lack of improvement over the course of the season. That's the thing. By this time of the year, you expect to be playing better. And listen, that Ole Miss defense at State put up 21 points against. They're not a great defense. I mean, people talk about, well, they're improved. I mean, they could have picked 11 kids out of the stands and been improved to what they were last year because they had a much better defensive coordinator. But this Mississippi State offense should have been able to put up a lot more points against Ole Miss. That was, to me, kind of a harbinger of things to come. So when you're playing a very average defense with your guy, Tommy Stevens is your handpicked guy to run your offense, and then you can't put up more than 21 points. And, again, it's like State gets the lead today and you kind of go to sleep. That's the bigger thing to me, is that we just didn't see improvement over the course of the season.
Yes, and some of that was for reasons beyond control. Tudor Gate happens before the season. Then you make the gamble on Tommy Stevens, your quarterback, which for 6 quarters looked good. Then he gets injured, and it just starts that revolving door. Then you have the incident even in bowl camp between Willie Gay and Garrett Schrader, where your hot quarterback is not able to play at all today. I know that we can sit here and say that ultimately it all comes back on the head coach, because it does. But there are so many things he couldn't control, and yet so many things that maybe can be controlled. This team seemed to lack something. They were tough enough mentally and emotionally to beat some bad teams or equal teams in November and get bowl eligible. But what is it that's missing that they need to do to take the next step? Would it be something as simple as strength and conditioning? Could it be a change in the assistant staff? I know we expect some of those to happen as well. This is going to be a very intense few days because spring semester starts on January 6th. They don't have a lot of time before the first weightlifting sessions and the first team meetings start going. They've got to make some fast decisions and choices here right as soon as they get home tomorrow from the bowl.
David, I'm going to go with all the above. Absolutely all the above. And I think there's a lot of things if fans have kind of complained about throughout the season, and those are very valid concerns. And I think many of those things probably in the next 10 days, we're going to go ahead, you and I will be writing stories about some comings and goings and that sort of stuff. And I've gotten some news, some things that we're somewhat excited about as far as some changes that are coming to this program. But It's behind us. And sadly, it's a losing season for Mississippi State, third one in a decade. We've really kind of thought we were immune from this. And this year has been one of those years that has really, really challenged the Bulldog psyche and loyalty of many fans. And so next year is going to be awfully interesting, but this one is a very tough pill to swallow because Mississippi State enters the offseason as a 6-17.
So, as Steve says, after the losing season, despite a bowl game, despite an egg bowl, it still is a losing season, so it's not what Coach Joe Moorhead and staff wanted. Of course, Moorhead has been guaranteed a third season here at Mississippi State, so that's been settled. Take that one off the table right now. We had no such incidents that were going to cause any kind of change here. But a lot of decisions have to be made internally over there. I know the administration will be speaking with him about certain things as well. And then it comes into spring training. Then it's Garrett Schrader's team. And then this is the team, I think obviously he has to hit the transfer portal hard. State's got to get help at receiver, and running back, and I think linebacker as well. But we won't know how that plays out for several weeks now, the second signing day. A lot of tension is going to be in there, and this is when Joe Moorhead is really going to find out, is he the coach for this program? He had kind of a mulligan the first year. The second year, there were so many distractions that you could say that we never truly got to see what he wanted to do or wanted to be. But I think, Steve, going to year 3, it's all out there. It's do it or State has to think about making a change.
Well, I don't think there's any excuses. I mean, and listen, there's excuses and reasons. The Tutorgate thing, that obviously that was more impactful than many of us anticipated. But you were full strength for Ole Miss. You're full strength for this ball game here. Save a few injuries, and really nobody's full strength at this point. But you had plenty of time to prepare, and I think that 0-5 statistic that some people have kind of digging up about when you're coming off a bye week or you've had multiple weeks to prepare for an opponent. Mississippi State has gone backwards and lost every one of those games, and most of them have not been competitive. That's something, to me, is about preparation and coaching.
So that's our summary here from Nissan Stadium. And Joe Moorhead enters 2020, year 3, be the year of decision. But he has a young quarterback that already people are electrified about. He's got some young talent. A lot of it played ahead of schedule this year. I think he said something like 6 of 11 defenders were not in the starting lineup to begin the season. You know that you've got a redshirt running back coming on board, and you've got the transfer portal to work with. So spring will be very interesting, but this is the year of decision, and it is up to Moorhead to prove that he is the offensive coach Mississippi State expected him to be when they hired, and a lot's riding on it, but it's his job to keep and his job to win and his program to run in 2020. That wraps up our football season here. We'll have more news, of course, of any coaching changes that come. Obviously, the second signing period is coming up as well. We'll be watching that. But if you'll allow us, we're going to take a little bit of a break here, let you turn attention to basketball. While Steve will be heading home, you'll be heading to Starkville, I'll be heading to the Charlotte area where now, in case anybody missed it, I'm now residing pretty much full time, but I'll be back on campus several times during spring for baseball and basketball as well. So you hadn't got rid of me yet. So anyway, it's been a fun year in a lot of ways. It's been a frustrating year in a lot of ways, but Steve, I've enjoyed working it with you again. And let's do it again in 2020, even from long distance if we have to.
No doubt. And we're staying with you for NC State.
Yes, they're stuck with me no matter what they want to do, and I guess vice versa as well. For our team here, Robbie Falk and Steve Robertson here at Nissan Stadium in Nashville, this is David Murray.